Hello and welcome to the 8th episode of Power and Apps. This is January 30, 2019. I'm Vivek Bhavishi, or that API guy, live from Tip City, Ohio. There was an issue with the sound in the first kind of, I would say, take. So I'm doing the whole video. So if you were on the video already, hang tight and we cover the whole topic again. We just lost 10 minutes of the content, but don't worry about that. Just cover it. All right. So in today's video, we'll learn how to use APIs in Flow and Power Apps. I have made some different videos around this previously. However, I wanted to take you guys through a step-by-step process of how to use an API and how to implement it in Flow. So before I start that, let me show you something that I created using the Twitter API and the GIPHY API. So yeah, in today's video, we'll talk about both Twitter and the GIPHY API. There are two types of authentications involved. One is an API key authentication, and the other one is an OAuth type of authentication. We'll talk through both of the things in detail, but yeah, I just want to give you an overview of what we'll be discussing today. All right, let's show the app now. Okay. So this is a Power App. It's not TweetDeck or anything else. It's my own created version of kind of a social media hub for myself, where I can see what I have posted and what my followers or the people who I'm following, what they have posted. So um, the reason why I use the Twitter API is you can get more tweets, more than, I think the limit is around 25 or 50, by using the Twitter connector available in Power Apps or Flow. However, if I want to get more than that, I had to use the Twitter API. And there are some more benefits of it. You can get the likes count, and I think the retweet count as well. One of them is not available in the Twitter connector. So that's how I'm kind of showing the date, the photo, the content, and the likes and shares. If I click on one of these, it also shows up in detail over here. Also, it shows up the image that I attached to it. There's one way to kind of, I mean, if you see, if this is not kind of um, disabled, basically, means that it has an image along with it. And I can show you one more example over here. Yep. So this is another good one. On the GIFs that I posted. So this is how you can kind of I have formatted this whole kind of social media deck. I can also see the tweets from whoever I'm following. It refreshes every time I click on it and gets the latest 100 tweets. I'm interested in that. Kind of reduces my time spent on Twitter as well. And also I can see kind of the details over here. The other thing which you can do is you can filter by the ones which have a hashtag power-ups. So you can see, I can see some friendlier faces over here, Daniel, April, Natraj, who have posted about power-ups, and I'm interested only in that. I'm working on trying to just get more tweets if I'm clicking one of this. This is still work in progress, so it's not showing that. And on the top, I can see an overall statistics. So you can see this on your Twitter as well, but you cannot see the total number of likes or shares that you have of all the tweets combined. I don't know, it's just something that gives me more, inspires me to do more. and that's why I kind of did a sum of the likes and retweets that I got. And this is there's a date range that I've used. I'm trying to build that in the settings tab, but still work in progress. But yeah, you can set the dates, and then it will count the number of likes and shares during that time interval. Uh, One of the things that I added is a new post. I already I was showing this off, so let me go back and remove this. And let's see, this is another post from Power and Apps. And the thing which I like to do is I want to add hashtags without typing it out and searching for them, because every time I type hashtag P, it doesn't give me Power Apps as the first thing. It doesn't, Twitter doesn't store my kind of most recently used hashtags. But these are the most common ones that I use quite often. So I can just click on them and it adds them. That's a huge time saver for me. I can add one more hashtag over here, and then if I want to add an image, I can click on here, select an image, and add that. Uh, or if I want to add a GIF, so this is using the GIPHY API, and I don't know what pronunciation you guys use, but I generally tend to use GIF. So I can click on search GIF, and I know what's happened. I just changed my key for it, and that's why it didn't load. So I'll show that again once we have the key generated. Um, but yeah, once you have all those, I already had a GIF added, so it's showing up over here, and then just click on Power Post. Because most of my tweets are around Power Platform, so let's go over here and refresh it. This is another post from Power. There you go. It adds the GIF, the hashtag, and everything. So pretty neat. And the other thing, I can also see my YouTube data. Let's see. There's something that I need to figure out, but it should show up. Hmm. Showing up until now. Let's see what's going on. Huh. That's strange. Oh, there you go. It's just, okay. Yeah, something's wrong, but anyway, so it also shows my YouTube videos. Let me see if I did something wrong over here. We'll look into that later. So let's try to figure out how to use APIs now. Let me go back to the screen. Okay, showing me the tweets. All right, there might be some issue there, but okay, there is something strange going on. We'll look into that later. All right, so let's start with the GIPHY API. And so how do I generally kind of search for APIs, and what's my thought process around it? So I generally search like the company name, and generally I know that most of the big kind of content sites have some kind of API documentation. So let's click on GIPHY API. I was already logged in. That's why it's showing my kind of account. If it's a free account that you can just sign up for, and then create an API key. So the Jiffy API uses an API key. That's the easiest way of using APIs. And I'll show you in a second how to do that. But mostly around, I mean, what you want to look for is the documentation and maybe an API explorer and the place where how you can create or get an API key. So let's start with this. Let's create an app. Say that API guy, app description. This is just, I mean, this doesn't change anything. It's just for your reference. Let's say social media hub, and then create new app. All right, so I have a key over here now, and this is the key that I want to use in my flow to get the data. Now that I have the key, how do I get the GIFs, right? So let's go to the documentation. I'll first copy this just for my reference. We go to the documentation, and this is again something that you'll have to browse through around to understand how to use the API. But in my case, what I want is I want to search for GIFs. So I want to see for a search API, I mean, search endpoint. They call it as endpoints within an API. So this this is search replicates the search found on Jiffy. Yes, this is exactly what I want. I will click on that. And this is how, I mean, this might look a bit tricky, but it's not that tricky. Um, so this is your host. That's the api.jiffy.com, the URL that you'll be using. Then you want to use a get type of request. So there are get and post type of request. In this case, you want a get because you're just getting data. You're not actually posting anything into the API. If you post something into the API, you're basically changing something or sending some data so that they can find. Basically, that's a difference between getting and posting. I won't go into a much more detailed description. In this case, we just want the get. So what all does it require? It requires the API key. It requires the query string. So this is what your search query is. And you can use a limit, how many limit of records that you want to return, which means how many GIFs basically you want it to be returned. There's an optional results offset. We'll not look into this. There's a rating. You can filter results by a specified rating. And they might have some more details on how to use that. And then the language. So in our case, we'll use EN, that's English. And what kind of response format. So again, we want to use the JSON response. And I'll show you why when we implement the flow. Now that we know how to kind of explore this, I mean, what kind of parameters are required, what we could do is we can go to the API Explorer because that will give you an example of how the URL is built using for the search endpoint. So when we go to the API Explorer, and this might be different for different for different APIs, but this is the general flow that you want to kind of follow to use an API. So you see, I put the search as an endpoint, and these are the parameters that are required. You can select the rating, language. It creates the URL for me. So what I'll do is I'll copy this URL. I will open my. So I'll show this first. So this is my Jiffy flow, and what I'll do is I'll remove all this and I'll do it again so that we can see how it works. So you want an HTTP request. Let's delete this. And so if you haven't used it before, it's the HTTP request, not the Swagger or webhook. This is just an HTTP request. In the HTTP request, you want it as a GET request, which was specified in the search endpoint when we were looking at the documentation. And oops. So this is the URL that you need to paste. So the URL that I copied, I'll just paste it over here. And there's something that you will have to change over here. So the API key. So let me go back, go to my dashboard. I want my API key, so I'll copy that, go back to my flow, API key equals this. So this is how generally the URLs are built for API. And in this case, the API underscore key equals to this. And Q is the search query. So this is what you want from Power Apps. So in this case, I already had generated a variable, so it has over here. Otherwise, it will be asking Power Apps be the message that you select, and it will create a Power Apps variable. So I'll insert that. That's the thing that I'll get from Power Apps. And then these are the limits and everything. And then you want to use the response action. Again, if you haven't used it, it's a response request action. And inside that, now this is where it gets a bit tricky. I would say not too tricky, but what you want to do is just copy this URL. Just go to your browser, paste the URL, and instead of that HTTP URI, what we'll do is we'll put some kind of search term. So I'm putting happy. So when it's an API key method, you will get the response just by entering it in URL. If it's an OAuth type of authentication, it takes it. You can't just do it over here. You might have to use Postman to do that, and I'll show you when we do the Twitter API. So in this case, this just looks very like too much to take. So what we'll do is we'll copy this, and you can search for a JSON viewer. I use this codebeautify.org JSON viewer. Again, it's codebeautify.org. And what I'll do is I'll just delete this thing, paste it, and then click on tree viewer. And then it creates basically it into a tree for the JSON. And within the tree, there's like data. This is the each of the GIF that, so my limit was 25, and that's why I returned only 25 GIFs. For each of those, what are the different attributes that we are getting back? So you have the slug, the URL, and all that things over here. Now, what you want to do is, let me just click Beautify over here, and you want to use this data portion only. So there are three things if you see over here. When you see the tree viewer, you'll see what all is included in the JSON. There's data, there's the pagination. This is something that you're not interested in right now. This is like, so for the happy search query, there are like 65,000 results, but we just want the 25 one. And then this is just a status OK kind of a thing, which is returned in JSON as well, to see if the JSON query worked fine, or if there was an error, what was the error. And what we'll do is we'll just copy the data portion of it. And okay, so this is where it kind of gets easy to kind of use a JSON viewer. You need this because Flow needs to understand what is the format of the response that it's getting, that it needs to give it back to Power Apps. So in the advanced options, what you want to do is click on use sample payload to generate schema, paste that, and click on done. I already have my JSON schema um, created, so I won't do it right now, but that's how you want to do that. Now, we just copied the data portion of it because we are interested in that. However, the result that you get from this HTTP request is the whole body of the flow, including the data, pagination, and everything. So in the response request, my body, I want to change that to include only the data portion of it. That's this portion, right? So what we'll do is, this is how you write the expression. I'll click on expression. And this is something I always use. I just type K and then go over here to get the dynamic content value, and then click on the body, then remove the K, because otherwise it doesn't let me do that. And then square brackets open, close, and then in single quotes, data. This is how generally you want to access the array of the responses that you're getting from any API. Sometimes it's called results. Sometimes the whole body is just the results. It would vary from an API to API, so you'll have to look into that. All right, click on OK and save. And we'll try to test it out from here itself. So click on test. I want to put, let's put, yay. My search query, run flow, done. It says your flow ran successfully. This is my, this is the data that I got, right? So it's all here and response, it shows the code, but yeah, I mean, nothing gets responded because we have not triggered it from Power Apps. Now we go back over here and try to run that again. Let me show you how to do that. So any button that you're using to kind of start, like click on get the search results, you want to go into that button, click on, I'll first copy this, it's easy for me, and click on flows, and then select that flow from here. And in my case, let's see, the GIPHY GIF. Okay. So it's adding, and I'm just repeating this, but I think I need to change that name. I was initially using Tenor, and then I changed to Jiffy. And so this is this. So you want, what you want to do is you want to collect, basically getting the whole table of the data, and you want to put it into a collection in Power Apps. So use clear collect. Jiffy GIFs is the collection name. This is the flow, and what I want to pass is I should get better at naming. I know that. But, get that sound. So that's my search query and text, and that's how I'll be collecting that. Notes. Oh, okay. I need to remove this. Anyways, okay. So now that we did that, let's click on this happy, search for the GIF. And there you go. You have all the GIFs. You can do some, I don't know, something. You click on GIF, and there you go. I'm getting a search for true, and I'm getting the GIFs for that. And when I click on GIF, this is my favorite character in Office. uh, so it just selects over here and it puts it so that you can see what GIF you selected. And this GIF was posted using. Now I want to use Power Apps. And oh, true. And let's say we said using GIPHY API. GIPHY API. All right. And then we'll just click on Power Post. And that should get added. Let's see. I hope I didn't make a mistake. There you go. All right. So that's how you kind of use an API with an API key. Um, the Twitter API uses authentication. Today, I think I might not have the time to go through that, and I'll cover that in maybe a next episode or a separate video just to cover authentication. However, to give you a quick idea, auth involves two steps where you need to get, and it gets a bit complicated. Let's just end it at there so that we can then figure out how to, um, we'll figure it out in the next video. All right, so let's, let me see if I have any questions. How do you attach GIF and text input afterwards? Oh, okay. That's just that's just a small trick. It's actually not in the text input box. I just placed it over there. I was trying to. I wanted to put some padding on the text box so that the text doesn't go over there, but it was still doing that. So my text box is actually a text. Um, so yeah, I did put a padding of like even 50, and it's still, if I type over here, it still keeps going over there. I don't know why. I don't know if it's is it because it's multi-line text? And let me see if we can uh, change that and see what happens. Let's do single line. Still, the padding, somehow the right padding, it's not taking it into account. Am I putting a lower value? No. 100, come on. Oh, hmm. And I was putting a lower value. Okay. So what you could do is, let 150. Hmm. But the padding doesn't put the text on the next line. So I don't know. That's something that I'll have to figure out. But yeah, I mean, this is, if I click on here, let's see, Jeff, selected Jeff. Yeah, it's just an image, and what I've done is uh, search for the GIF again, and what it does is when this is a gallery basically over here, and on select of the gallery, It says clear collect selected media. So this is I'm creating a collection, and then I'm adding the selected image over here into that collection. So selected media, diff image is gcality2.selected.image7. So this is that. Again, I'm bad at naming my uh, controls over here, but yeah, bear with me on that. So yeah, that's how I added that. And once it also when I click on it, it also says remove Jiffy GIFs all. So I'm basically clearing out the collection so that it gets kind of reset. Um, so yeah, that's how I implemented it. Let's see if we have any other questions. I think that's about it. Yeah, and just as I think the ultimate goal for me here was um, I put the video title as not an MVP. Uh, that was because these this was a few months back, but my MVP application got rejected. But that didn't kind of make me sad or anything. It just inspired me to do more. And there is I wanted to create a database of all the content that I'm creating, and that's why I created this. And all this data is actually going into CDS. It's one data source that I'm having. Um, and you can see CDS data sources in Excel. So all my data is basically getting added into a content source. My unique ID is a content ID. So Twitter has an ID, YouTube has a video ID, and everything basically has some kind of unique ID. Then my content text, I'm adding a date created, um, the hashtags that I'm using inside it, and the URLs for the media, and I mean everything basically related, almost everything for each kind of content that I'm creating. That's why I mean this. I just thought this would be an easy way to just keep a track of all my content, and so I have YouTube, which is not working very fine right now. I don't know for some reason. Let's give it a last shot. Hopefully it works this time. That should be something wrong formula over here. Okay, let's give it a quick look. Okay. That's fine. Nope. This is not gonna show up this time. Let's see if the something went terribly wrong when I was testing something over here. Let's give it. Let's try to see if we can sort it out quickly over here. Filtered content. Nope. Seems all right to me. Um, let's give it a refresh. Because the other sources that I'm trying to use was the community content as well that I'm contributing. So let's see. Let's give it one more shot. And if it still doesn't work, we will end the video. But let me show you over here, and this would maybe make sense. So this is my content. If you can see content source, I have community videos, Twitter, YouTube. The community stuff was a bit hard to do because it was basically creating an RSS feed and from the user communities that we have, the Power Apps and the Flow community, and then getting kind of manipulating the HTML to get the views and the kudos. That's a topic for some other day. But it was pretty interesting to do that. Let's give it a final shot over here. Mhm. Let me know if you have any questions around APIs or anything that you want to learn, the UI that I created over here. Any questions that you have around whatever you saw so far. Okay. See the Twitter thing. Okay. So the Twitter thing is working fine. So I don't know if I showed you. So I have a list view, I have a thumbnail view. Yeah, there you go. There was something wrong. So yeah, you can see over here, I have all my YouTube videos are also here, and the neat part over here is I also got because I have the and I mean I get the YouTube analytics as well. So there's a different API for YouTube analytics which I could use and get the total amount of time that is being watched has been watched on these videos so far. Some of the places are missing for some reason. But yeah, you can see this one was the maximum. The returning data from Flow to Power Apps, like 3,500 minutes. So it's almost like 600, 60 hours. Sorry, not 600. But yeah, I can see my all the videos. I can just click them from here and watch it if I want to. The other thing which I added was the community content. So these are the same community videos that I contributed on the community page as well, but I can see the views and the kudos that I got when I posted it on the community. Uh, so yeah, there's some HTML stuff that I did. The other thing I want to add is the WordPress and also my speaker sessions if I'm doing anything, so that I can basically create the whole kind of hub of all the content that I can add for Power Apps and Flow, and I can see it here. Think that's all on this video. If there aren't any questions, we'll talk next week. So thank you for watching, and if you have any comments or feedback, please give it on the comment section on this video. And if you want to learn more about creating this kind of a deck, if you want to reach out to me directly, um, do feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at that_API_guy. Always happy to help, and we'll see you next week.